So today we're going to be talking about Gary. No, this is not Gary with the T. This is Gary from the Real Housewives of Atlanta. You don't know who Gary is? Guess what? Many of us don't either. And this is the problem when you bring up these people on these shows who we don't know. Okay. And so we're going to get into all of that, trust and believe. But we're also going to talk about why I feel like this is overall just bad for the show. Okay. So let's get into the tea first of all with Kelly. Okay. So on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, what we learned was that Kelly and Angela, they had a sparring match. Okay. And in that sparring match, we heard something about Kelly owing Gary some money. All right. Now, who might Gary be? All right. So, shout out to our friends over at the Girls Are Fighting with 2Gs on Instagram. Okay. So, here's what had happened Kelly has lost a breach of contract lawsuit to quote Gary in order to pay more than $83,000. Now, this is the latest in a series of financial woes for Kelly in the midst of her having a romantic renaissance at this point in time with Jarvis. Now that I think about it, that $70,000 could have been used here. Nevertheless, about Gary, all right? According to, and again, shout out to the Girls Are Fighting. According to the Fulton County Court records, this is Gary Tolliver. Apparently, he sued Kelly over money he says that he loaned her for her business, the restaurant business. And now Kelly, she's lost this lawsuit. And the final verdict and judgment is dated August the 10th. So that was just a day or two ago. This was on the court's bench trial calendar on August the 7th. And here's what's going on. Kelly did not appear at this trial, and she was ordered to pay $63,000 in principal, $20,000 in prejudgment interest, plus the court costs and post-judgment interest. That puts the judgment at $83,699 before court costs and post-judgment interest. So who's Gary? He's an investor who loaned Kelly money for the opening and operation of Nana's Chicken and Waffles in Sandy Springs. All right. Now, in his complaint, he said that he loaned Kelly $35,000 around July 14th, 2024, followed by another $40,000 around October 15th of 2024. He said that the money was supposed to be used to open and operate the restaurant that Kelly agreed to, and Kelly agreed to repay the total of $100,000, including interest, by November 2024. Apparently, she eventually repaid $36,000, leaving $63,000 unpaid. Now, apparently there is a loan agreement in the court filings dated July 9th of 2024 that does identify Kelli Ferrell as the borrower and Gary Tolliver as the lender. That agreement lists a $75,000 loan amount and an additional $25,000 in interest. So his lawsuit included claims for breach of contract, fraud, unjust enrichment, and damages. Now, Angela brought this up on the show, okay? It's clearly factual information that Angela's bringing to the table. And I would say in the scheme of things, we could say Angela's right maybe 50% of the time, right? We don't know about the woman in Pinky's basement as of yet, right? We don't know about that. The situation with George proved to be true in terms of maybe what he said or joked about, but mainly not true. There were some other inconsistencies with Angela's stories. So I would say she's batting about a 50% average. Okay, fine. We can rock with that. Now, what Kelly has done as a result is Kelly has done her own digging, maybe. And she has posted a foreclosure of Angela's. All right, so here's what she posted just yesterday. Angela Dion Reed, not the government name. This is the $2 million house that we're speaking of because Angela mentioned her $2 million house in the reunion. She says, baby, this is your marital home, not an investment property. that was in foreclosure and up for auction, correct? Not the home is on the page. Like, my God. Is this the home that she still lives in? So now are the people able to now go and find where she lives? I'm just kind of thinking in case anybody's doing some digging. Okay. So let's continue. She says, "See, I've been very open and honest about my entire life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I never pretended my life was perfect, and I've never needed it to be. So before we discuss finances, which is weird, with your lifetime ban from FINRA and all, my home, or my real life struggles, make sure we're bringing everything to the forefront." Okay. 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 Let's talk about this. Let's talk about it all. Let's mention it all, right? When we get to this point in a franchise, and I've got to also shout out our friends over at Reality Entertainment TV for this story. Let's talk about where we go from here. Okay. I don't know if Angela's address was included in this listing because can people go in and find that information? I don't know. I don't know. But what I will say is that this ends up being some of the danger that we get into with these particular shows. When you start scraping the surface of hell, you will ultimately all find yourselves there. All right, here's what we know about reality TV, and we've seen this play out before. It doesn't usually bode well for at least one party or another. I don't know if you guys recall when there were accusations against Chris Bassett made by Giselle. And those accusations ended up painting Chris in a really negative light. And the show, particularly as it was as related to Candace being there, was never really able to recover from that moment. And so what you ended up having was a moment where somebody had to decide that they were going to leave. Okay. Now, initially, we saw, for those of us who are well versed in Potomac, we saw the crumbling of some of this starting back in season 5. I think that's where it became a recognizable thing that something was happening behind the scenes with this cast, and there were allegations of plots and schemes back then. Okay. Fast forward to the season that this happened with Candace, it really hits the fan. And the danger in that is that you begin to lose people who could make for really, really good TV. We've seen this type of thing play out on other shows and other franchises because the list could go on. We could look at Real Housewives of New Jersey, and we saw what happened between them get so bad that it ended up being that show got put on pause because the cast members were just like, whew, we're going to go here. Now we're going to go here. We're going to find out this information, and it's going to be detectives and this, that, and the third. And I think a show like Real Housewives of Rhode Island, which again, you ended up seeing a cast member leaving the show first season because she didn't want to deal with all the mess from either the fans online or the show itself. Whether or not that's going to be a loss that's felt in a major way come next season, we don't know. But what I can say is this: if you start there, the expectation from fans is that you're going to continue there. So everything that you see with Rhode Island, if they don't up the ante in this next season, the people are going to be disappointed because you set them up for something. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that cast is not fascinating. I have not seen that show. I just know what's going on. Okay. Now, I don't know why. If I'm Kelly, okay, I'm not coming after nobody about their houses, their homes, their finances. Okay. And granted, you have been very open about your finances, but that does leave you vulnerable to attack. Okay. That's just the reality of it. So while, yes, you might be bringing your real life, the question now becomes, is this a story that we want to see, right? We do want to see fabulousness. We do want to see riches. That's going to be very interesting to see how that comes about. Now, what I do like is that Kelly is a firecracker, but, and while this information about Kelly was true, what I don't like about it is that now we have to go and be detectives to find out exactly what Angela's talking about, who Gary is. Now, this person becomes a mix of the show. And granted, we've always had these sprinklings of people in the periphery way back from when Sheree had to pick up the phone with Nene and call Tyrone about this money, that thing that happened between the two of them in the off season. We've always had those instances with people who are floating around in the periphery. I just think that with 9 members on this cast, 9 cast members, 8 full-time, 1 as a friend of, that I don't believe that we need to rely on all of these outside things. It happened at the end of last year. It's happening again now. These outside people, whether they be Nigerian pastors who are clients of Phaedra's, whether they be K. Michelle's ex Nosh, and whoever it is that is having pillow talk with whomever, like, either bring them on the show and give them space in your story. But for me, if I'm a producer, every time somebody mentions something, because even Andy's like, who was Gary? Every time somebody does that, if I'm a producer, I'm either going to say, you are fined because now you got to bring this person in, right? Because then that would stop a lot of this. And that would keep the dynamics of what's happening between the women on the show, not outside person who claims that so-and-so was at the restaurant. Not a great example of this is what happens, what Bell Collective calls outside noise, and where things can go when that happens. And for those of you guys who don't know, I think it was Tuesday, I did an interview with Latrice. She was doing some press that day, so I was able to catch up with her. And that interview will be out later today. So you guys, you can get to see that. I just don't like it because I don't feel like, and I said it in my review on Sunday, Nene to me is probably one of the classic examples of, and that's a hard metric to follow, but she often to me feels like a great example of someone who really didn't need to ever bring anybody in or rely on these outside things. Yeah, there might have been rumors that she heard that she ended up, I don't know. Like, I think the closest I saw with that was Claudia. I'm trying to figure out when this all started, that these people started to, like, people started to bring in these outside details with, and naming names at that point. I just don't know. I just feel like this is a fast road to hell on these shows, because what ends up happening is every time the one person goes here, the next person has to go here, the next person has to go here, the next person has to go here, and then you end up in a space where you have both just gone to hell, and it becomes unenjoyable. So I don't know. Maybe I'm aging out of this. That could be it. That could be it. Maybe it's me. I'm willing to accept that. So anyway, just thought we would have this discussion today because I think it's a worthwhile discussion to have. And I think it's super appropriate for where we are now in the storytelling that is Atlanta. So we'll see. We'll see. Let us know your comments down below. Of course, I know that you guys may disagree, and that's fine too. Okay, just do so respectfully. And I will catch you in the next video.